Hello and welcome to another episode of Mr. Block's Media Arts Tutorials. Today we're going to dive into the world of package design. I'm going to show you a little bit about how to create a set of die lines for a design for a particular package. Now it could be any size package, but we are going to go with today we're going to work with about a 5 by 3 by 1.5 size box. And so for that, we'll start with a print preset using, we'll actually go ahead and make it 17 by 11. We want this landscape orientation. So make it 17 wide by 11 inches high, and we'll create that. And so that's great. So now in terms of the box, it's really simple to create the box. We're just going to be using the rectangle tool to create the template that we need. And I've already created a sketch that I'm going to be working off of. And I'll go ahead and pull that into the page, into the artboard right now. So what I'll do is just draw it out. Now, this is just a guide. It's not going to, of course, this is not an accurate representation of the dimensions. So first thing I want to do is actually let's open up the layers panel. And double-clicking, I'm going to click template, and then that, of course, dims the image, and that locks that layer, so I don't have to worry about actually accidentally moving it around. So the first thing that I want to do is just notice how I've created or what I've done for the dimensions. We've got 3 inches wide on the front and then 5 inches high. 1.5 inches on the sides. So the front and back are both 3 inches wide by 5. The side is 1.5 by 5. And then we have these flaps. This is your side flaps. And this is called a tuck flap. And the bottom is exactly the same, a tuck flap and 2 side flaps. And then we've got on the far left, we have a flap that is to be connected on the other side of the box. And in terms of the sizing of the flaps, and you can see how I've, let me move this out of the way. It's essentially a square, right? So we've got 1.5 by 1.5. And then I've increased the tuck flap just about 1/8 of an inch longer, and then another 1/8 of an inch for the end, the little tuck flap end, the flap itself. So that's 1 5/8 inch to the end of the tuck flap, and then 1 3/4 inch to the end here. Now I could actually probably go to 1 7/8 of an inch to make it a 1/4 inch flap, but yeah, and I think this will work just fine as it is. So let's grab the rectangle tool, create let's make none for the fill. We want to change the stroke. Let's see, I'll change this over on this side here. So we'll just change the stroke to a dashed line. You know what? No, we'll save the dashed line. I'll show you what we'll do to make that dashed line in the middle. The reason that we want different types of lines is we'll have a cut line, then we'll have fold lines, and then we'll have an outer line that will be the bleed line. Okay, so I'll show you all of that right now. We're going to start with just creating. What we're going to do to begin is we're going to just draw in that first front panel. In order to do that, I'm going to grab the rectangle tool and simply click anywhere on the page. Just click once and then type in the width. We need a 3-inch width. And the height will be 5 inches. Click OK. And there's our front panel. Obviously, that doesn't match what our sketch was, but that's okay. We're just going to put this right there. And then we need a side panel. Grab the rectangle tool again. Just click on the page. The width, though, is going to be half that size, 1.5 inches. Click OK. And then just connect these guys up. Let's grab this right up there. Bam. Using smart guides. If you don't have your smart guides on, go down. It's Control-U, turns them on and off, or just go to your view and choose smart guides. That'll give you the ability to snap your objects to each other. Now I'm going to grab both, press Alt on the keyboard and Shift to drag on a straight line, and there we go. We're going to copy it over and let it snap to the end there. So we've got the front, the back, the side, and notice I did it backwards. I'm just going to flip it just so that it's the way that I designed it here. And then we need on this side, now notice I didn't put the dimensions for that flap. I'm going to go with a 1/4 inch flap on that. So we'll just go with not a 0.15, it says a 0.25 width with a height of 5 inches. And there we go. And I'm just going to pull that right on over. There we go. And then we're ready to start designing the tuck flap and the side flaps now. All right, so this is going to be actually pretty straightforward. So let me actually go ahead and unlock this. Let's get the template off with the dim off. I want to move this out of the way now. So there we go. Now we just need a tuck flap, the side flap that's going to be a 1.5 by 1.5. So let's get back onto the right layer. Click 1.5 and then a 1.5. There we have that. We'll need 4 of them, right? I'm going to put one here. Copy one up to the top. And then grab both of them with Shift and then press Alt. Drag it over. Okay. Now we'll do the tuck flap. So I'm just going to grab one of these and drag it over, lock it to there. And I know that it's going to fit this area. You can tell right off the bat, it gives you a 3-inch. You can see the dimensions on the right here. So it's a 3-inch width. Now I need this to be a it's actually a 625. Adding 1/8 of an inch to a 1.5 makes it 1.625. And so we're going to use the reference point here, and we're going to click on the bottom so that when we change the height, check this out, we're going to change the height to 625 and press Enter. It leaves the bottom exactly where it is and adds the height to the top. So that's really important to when you're using when you're scaling objects, using the reference point is an important aspect of that function, so you can tell how big it's going to get from which direction. What we need to do is I need the top flap, just the top of the tuck flap, just like I did on this side here. Let's grab the reference, the rectangle tool, click once on the page. It's going to be a 3-inch width, but let's make it a 1/4 inch. I know I have it a little different in my sketch, but that's okay. 1/4 inch height to match what we've got here. And then we're going to grab and drag it right here. Okay, now to do the bottom, all we need to do is grab both of these tuck flap pieces, press Alt, click and drag, and then you can actually come to the edge here where it turns into a rounded arrow. Click and hold your Shift key because that will constrain it to a 45 or a 90-degree turn. And then you can just boink right in there, just fit it right in. And you can see that it's already coming together. This is, now let's go ahead and make sure that the width of our strokes are all at one point. Okay, that's what it is. Now this is just a template, okay? So what we're going to do with this template is I'm actually going to go ahead and make a separate, I'm going to make a copy of that layer. So grab that layer, drag it down to the plus. And I'm going to lock this layer right here, okay? No, actually, just for the sake of demonstration, just so you can see what I'm doing, I'm going to make this actually a light gray and then lock it. Okay, so that I'm going to modify the copy and show you how we can make a custom kind of a design with this, all right? So now first of all, the side flaps and the tuck flap and the side, this connector flap, we can modify the way that they look, and I'll show you why we would want to do that. And I'm going to just go ahead and grab another rectangle, and we're going to work on this layer here. Okay, so let's just put in, and I'm just kind of figuring it out. I'm just thinking about it, not really even paying attention to the size that I'm making this, because I don't think it really matters for this side piece. What we're doing is I'm going to grab both the flap and this little rectangle I drew. With the shape builder, delete that piece. And of course the gray that you see behind there is the original template. So that's going to remain where it is, just so you can see what I'm the difference. So you can see the design that I'm creating. Okay. So we're going to move that up. The reason that I want this cut out is so that when this side flap folds down, it doesn't get in the way of the other side of the box or any other flaps on the box. So this is kind of important to do. In fact, I'm going to delete this, delete that whole thing, grab the black arrow, the selection. I'm going to copy this over and then just flip it like that. Then what I want to do is let's modify this top a little bit. I just want to, let's round out this top so that the flap, when it folds in, it folds with a nice kind of a rounded corner, so it goes into the other side of the box nice and easily. So let's do the same thing to this side here. We really don't have to. This is actually going to be glued in place. This could remain squared off, but we're going to leave that as it is. All right, and then what we'll do is we'll take this, let's grab the selection tool, excuse me, and I'll delete this side right here, and then pull this down, holding Alt, and then flipping it vertically, and then grabbing this and dragging it upward. There we go. The next step is to indicate which areas are going to be the folds and which areas will be the cut, and then we'll create a bleed. Okay, so the next thing is I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the template. That was just to show you the difference between the template and the modified version. And so, in fact, my sketch, I'm going to get rid of that as well. So the next step is we're going to just get rid of this bottom layer and double click to name this, we'll call this the cut line. Okay, so, oops. Sorry, cut line. All right, and then we're going to then, so what I'd like to do here is we need to get rid of these inner lines. So first thing is just grab your direct selection tool, and what we're going to do is grab straight across all of these inner lines and hit delete. Okay, so then what I'd like you to do is we're going to grab the upper and the lower paths as well. To do that, click and drag down. Let's see, we're going to click and drag across those. And then what I'd like you to do is hold the Shift key and do the same thing this way and this way. When you do it across just the path, you're not grabbing the anchors, you're only grabbing that one line. And then hit delete. Okay, so now you are looking at, oh, no, sorry, almost. We need to grab these lines as well. Delete. There we go. Now that is the cut line, right? Now we need to put those lines back in terms of, getting those fold lines back. So what I'd like you to do is we're going to make a new layer up top, lock the cut line, and then grab your pen tool and grab, let's see, we're going to make a change to the look of the stroke. So we're going to change it to a light blue and then make it a dashed line. And I'll be honest, 12 points is a little much. We're going to half that, make that in half, sorry, change that to 6. I can speak. All right, here we go. And now we can go ahead and start adding those fold lines back in. We're going to bring this all the way across. Okay, and then we're going to come back over here and do the same thing to this side. Okay, we need a fold line. Now, where we cut that other line off, you'll notice that if we actually, hold on a minute, we open this, unlock it, there is the anchor. The anchor is still there from where we broke it last time, or not broke it, but where we deleted that line previously. So I'm going to lock that back up, and you'll still be able to connect up with that anchor. There it is, right there. Click, straight across, hold Shift to get a straight line, Now, of course, it gave me that because I touched the black line previously. So I'm going to grab the eyedropper and select that line right there. Do the same thing to the bottom. Just come right over here at that anchor, drag it over with a shift. There it is. One more right here. Okay. Now let's just make sure, if you turn on, you press Control Y, you can turn on your outlines, and then grab the black tool, actually the white, the selection tool, and just make sure that I got that right. Yeah, it looks like I got it right. And everything looks good. Let's go ahead and Control Y again. And there you go. Now we're not done. We still have to make the folds for oops, sorry, that's connecting to that. Sorry about that. Let me do this again. Let's lock that cut line. What happened was I accidentally clicked on that and it connected with that black line right there. So what we need to do is let's just grab the look from this again. Get your pen tool. So that was a mistake on my part. Let's go back up to layer 2. While we're here, let's change this. This is going to be the fold line. There we go. Click. Click. Press escape to let go of your connection to that last path. And I'll go click and then click and then press escape again. There we have our fold lines. You can see how everything's going to fold in on each other. The last thing we need to do is create the bleed. Now the bleed, if you recall, the bleed is if the area that goes outside of your design that allows for any color or graphics or anything to go over the cut line. If you keep your color, or if you draw a color or have an image that goes right to the cut line, during the printing process, the paper could shift in the machine, and I mean anything can happen. The line, what'll happen is you'll see a white strip of or the rest of the cardboard outside of your design, and so you don't want to do that. That's why you want to pull the graphic, pull the color outside the cut line, so that when it's cut, if anything shifts, you'll still see color. So that's what the bleed is for. We're going to actually make a whole new layer and call that bleed, not bleed line, but just bleed line. And then what we're going to do for that is we're going to take the cut line. We're going to click on the circle over here to select everything that's on that cut line. Press Control C, lock the fold and cut line layers, and go up to the bleed line layer. And then Control F to paste that directly down on top. And what I'd like you to do is let's change the stroke color on this one to green. Okay. Now to see what we're doing, let's turn off the eyes on the fold line and the cut line. And so then grab everything that's on this layer, and we're going to unite. No, don't unite. That didn't do it. Let's grab the shape builder tool and press Alt to delete these little guys here. Okay. Now it left 4 little dots in there, and what we can do with the white arrow is just grab right across there and hit delete. Okay. So we're now left with just the shape of the entire box, but we need to expand it to make that bleed line. We're going to make an 1/8 of an inch bleed line outside of the entire design. We're going to grab all of these. What I'd like you to do now is just, since we've got each line is basically separated because of the way that we broke it apart earlier, what I would do now is just Object, Path, outline the stroke. Let's unite everything and then release. Now what that's going to do is make everything one solid piece, and then unite that again. Now the last step is offset path, and we're going to offset it by 1/4 of an inch. That's 0.125. Hit OK. And then let's delete the inner one. You don't need the inner one. We've got the outer one. And then flip the color, the fill to the stroke. And that is our bleed line. Let's lock that layer, turn on the fold, turn on the cut. There is your die line. Okay, and so then what you'll do is you're going to actually add one additional layer and drag it to the very bottom. This, double click on that, should be your working layer. This is where you do all of your design work. You can turn this stuff on and off if you would like, but putting the design work and the colors on the layer below, if I can show you here, will allow you to still see your fold lines and your cut lines, and to see where your the perimeter of your box and the bleed actually is. Okay, that's all there is to it. I hope that helped, and I hope it was clear. Please, if it wasn't, leave a comment, ask a question. I'm happy to answer any of your questions. Have a great day, everybody.